water, earth, fire, air. Long ago, the four nations lived together in harmony. Then, everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked. Only the Avatar, master of all four elements, could stop them. But when the world needed him most, he vanished. 100 years passed and my brother and I discovered the new Avatar, an airbender named Aang. And although his airbending skills are great, he has a lot to learn before he's ready to save anyone. But I believe Aang can save the world.
When I talk with people about Avatar: The Last Airbender, a 2005 animated television series, we can usually agree on one thing. This show is no doubt the greatest animated series, and quite possibly the best overall show that we have ever seen. However, should I strike up this topic in conversation with someone who has not seen The Last Airbender, they are often indifferent as I attempt to describe the brilliance of it. It appears that when someone is told that this cartoony kids show is somehow the epitome of cinematic skill, without personal experience, they stand aghast at the idea of The Last Airbender's superiority to such series as Breaking Bad, The Sopranos, The Wire, and so on, where the character development is able to cultivate throughout many seasons of live action and more realistic storytelling. But I am here to tell you, Avatar is serious. While these non-animated shows do have the ability to convey a real-life situation with actual humans acting out the parts, Avatar: The Last Airbender evokes equal levels of authenticity, relatability, and interest. Even with over a dozen characters, each one is developed extensively in this 24-hour epic. With so little time throughout the show, one has to ask, how does this show develop its characters so well? There are generally two methods of rapid character development: the use of character archetypes and the use of parallelism. Archetypes establish limitations for characters, and provide the basis for character story arcs. But considering that no character accurately fits any real archetype perfectly, this method would not have worked well in Avatar. Instead, the writers use parallelism to allow the viewer to more easily follow the development of multiple characters at once, and build a more interwoven plotline. The best example of this technique is shown between Aang, the last living airbender, and Zuko, the exiled prince of the Fire Nation. Through parallelism, the audience is able to relate two unique characters together in their actions, motivations, relationships, backgrounds, and so much more. These aspects of their lives are shown through the lives and perspectives of others. Both characters are powerful benders of their respective elements, who seem to have intertwined destinies even from the very first episode. Aang and Zuko's lives exhibit parallelism in a literal, literary, and abstract manner. We will begin with the literal parallelism between the two characters and jump right into the second season.
There it is!
Welcome, Avatar Aang! I am General Fong.
By this point, Aang is on his path to the Earth Kingdom city of Omashu in order to master earthbending. On their journey to the city, he and his companions meet General Fong, an ally in the war, nonetheless a madman. Fong's objective is to induce the Avatar state, a spiritual condition where the Avatar is at his or her strongest, within Aang in order to defeat the Fire Lord immediately and stop the war. However, Aang tells Fong that the only way that he has ever entered the Avatar state was involuntarily, and only while under severe emotional distress. Hearing this, Fong attacks Aang in an attempt to put him into that distress and call upon the Avatar state.
I can only reach the Avatar state when I'm in genuine danger.
I see. I was afraid you'd say that. Men! Attack the Avatar!
Meanwhile, Zuko and his uncle Iroh, who have been struggling to survive in a world without the luxury of being recognized as royalty, are approached by Zuko's younger sister, Princess Azula. She informs them that Fire Lord Ozai has lifted Zuko's banishment and that they are both welcome home. However, this is a trap to lure the two back to the Fire Nation as prisoners, and fighting quickly ensues. These two battles, Zuko and Aang against Azula and Fong, are intertwined into one scene and show an explicit comparison in the two characters' approaches to violence. At first, Aang avoids all of the attacks that are thrown at him by the Earthbenders, while Zuko is the original aggressor towards Azula. Aang tries an avoidance of problems, an approach more akin to his pacifist upbringing as a monastic nomad, while Zuko, a child born of anger and raised among fire and hatred, makes no attempt to flee. However, there is a turning point in both of these fights. When Fong tricks Aang into thinking that one of his companions is suffocating in the earth, Aang falls victim to emotion and enters the Avatar state. Similarly, Zuko is forced to abandon his instinctual tactics when Azula tries to kill him with a lightning blast, and he and his uncle Iroh flee. In these literal shifts, there is also a character shift in the minds of Aang and Zuko. Aang's fear of violence changes into a rage for the harm to his friend. Zuko becomes fearful as Azula gains the upper hand. For an instance, each character leaves their natural state and exhibits the trait of the other character. This parallel helps the audience to understand the limitations of Aang and Zuko's characters and their respective growth up to that point in the show. Now we go on to Season 3. Aang's predecessor, Avatar Roku, is showing him how he learned of his destiny as the Avatar. This story flashback focuses on one aspect of Roku's life, his friendship and later falling out with Fire Lord Sozin, the same Fire Lord who began the war with the annihilation of the air nomads. As Roku is regaling Aang with his personal history, Zuko enters the crypts of the Fire Nation to read Sozin's accounts of the same friendship between Fire Lord and Avatar. As Roku travels the world and befriends people who Aang knew when he was young, Roku mentions that friendships can transcend lifetimes.
I can't believe you were friends with Monkey Yatso just like I was.
Some friendships are so strong, they can even transcend lifetimes.
His statement becomes true when the friendship that is sparked between Zuko and his former enemy has transcended both of their past lives, from Roku and Sozin to Aang and Zuko. However, while Sozin's ambition to seize control of the world emerges, his relationship to Roku withers, while Zuko only becomes closer to Aang as they progress. Their relationship to each other through their past lives help the reader understand how they are intertwined by their destinies in their current lives. Now we move on to literary examples of parallelism in The Last Airbender. We can look to Aang and Zuko's backstories to see how their origins are related. They were born into different nations with different ways of life, but their lives are still similar in how their actions lead to consequences for each other. Aang ran away from home after learning that he was the Avatar. He felt angst at the notion of his destiny to protect the balance of the world. He was fearful that he could not fulfill this objective. He fled from this destiny, but it never left him. Zuko was born knowing he was next in line to the throne. However, he constantly felt insecure about his ability to lead, and his speaking out of turn led to his father scarring his face and banishing him to pursue the Avatar. Although both Aang and Zuko left their homelands under different circumstances, they were both under the pressure of fear, and both of their experiences after leaving their homes allow them to learn more about the reality of the world, themselves, and their destinies. Both Aang and Zuko feared their duty to become a great leader, creating a parallel in their beginnings, and later on in the series, they both learned to let go of that fear for something far more important: love. Now we can look toward a less obvious parallel: the similarity in the relationship between Azula and Zuko after Season 2, as well as Zuko and Aang during the first season. What is seen with Azula and Zuko from Azula's introduction is that they diverge in most of their traits and ideology. This results from their different circumstances of parenting. Azula, a gifted firebender from the start, has been taken under the wing of her father, Ozai, whereas Ozai's wife, Ursa, has made sure that she spent as much time as possible with the son that Ozai neglected. As their childhoods progress, Azula grows cruel and wanton like her father, while Zuko is always more compassionate and gentle, exhibiting the traits of his mother. Although Zuko's mother one day disappears after committing treason to save Zuko's life, those moral guidelines never truly left him, and they are brought out of the deep by his new mentor, Uncle Iroh. This difference in ideology leads to Azula's pursuit of her brother, who, unlike her, presents a royal threat against the values of the Fire Nation. Earlier in the series, however, this pursuit is seen from Zuko towards Aang, with whom he also differs greatly in ideology in the earlier episodes. While parenting was a factor in the difference between Zuko and Azula, it has very little to do with Aang. Aang's upbringing rivals Zuko's. This is what leads to Zuko's antagonism towards him. Zuko believes that he must capture the Avatar to restore his honor and regain his birthright at his father's side, and that by doing so he will prove his worth. Aang, having been banished by not anyone other than himself, sets off on a journey without any objective other than to escape his destiny. Neither Zuko nor Aang are able to accomplish changing their destiny until after they have learned to accept it much later in the series. The final category of parallelism that we are going to focus on is abstract. Within abstract parallelism, there is only one main example between Aang and Zuko: theme. Most importantly, the narrative's themes regarding destiny. After Aang was told he was the Avatar, it was seemingly predetermined what his destiny was: master all four elements to protect the world from evil. Fearful of this responsibility, he ran away from it. When he woke up, destiny had not changed and only became more important to fulfill, as the world needed him now more than ever. His destiny at that moment, as he was told, was to kill Ozai. He suffers a moral dilemma due to his pacifist teachings, and thus sought the wisdom of several of his past lives to find an alternative, but they gave none.
Avatar Aang, I know that you're a gentle spirit, and the monks have taught you well. But this isn't about you. This is about the world.
The prospect of taking the life of another contradicted everything that he had been taught as an air nomad. He knew the ways of peace and avoidance of violence, not the participation in it. Although this prospective fate proves troublesome to his state of mind, Aang is able to change it. When he speaks to an ancient being called a lion turtle as a last resort to change the means by which his fate could be accomplished, destiny obliges.
Since beginningless time, darkness thrives in the void, but always yields to purifying light.
The lion turtle grants him the ability to control the energy within one's body, effectively altering the way that he would accomplish his destiny. This plays out in the end as, instead of killing Ozai, he uses his new power to take away the Fire Lord's bending. Aang completed what he had always dreaded doing without having to kill his enemy. He was able to come to terms with his destiny and defeat his enemy without compromising his character. Zuko's destiny changes through certain decisions and actions that he takes throughout the series as well, and those changes, like Aang's, resulted from others teaching him and giving him new perspective. In the first part of the story, it is the purpose of Zuko's existence to capture Aang because he wants to restore honor to himself and, more importantly, to earn the acceptance of his father. Ozai forcibly shaped Zuko's means of fulfilling his destiny by scarring him.
You will learn respect, and suffering will be your teacher.
I looked away.
This action filled Zuko with an ambiguous sense of character. He did not know who he truly was. In the second season, when Zuko is caught by Iroh capturing Aang's bison, Zuko proclaims that he knows his own destiny. However, as someone who has learned firebending from dragons, tackled personal defeats in his own life, and suffered the loss of a child,
Happy birthday, my son. If only I could have helped you. Leaves from the vine.
Iroh knows destiny more than Zuko.
I know my own destiny, Uncle.
Is it your own destiny? Or is it a destiny someone else has tried to force on you?
Stop it, Uncle. I have to do this.
I'm begging you, Prince Zuko. It's time for you to look inward and begin asking yourself the big questions. Who are you? And what do you want?
He chose to stop fighting for the Fire Nation and turn to a life of mentoring his nephew, who he hopes to teach in a way that he never could his own son, Luten. Iroh understands that Zuko's idea of destiny is affected by all of his surroundings, and wishes for Zuko to avoid the missteps that Iroh took as a younger man. Zuko's destiny, as the only son of Ozai, is to become the next Fire Lord after him. The kind of Fire Lord he will be, however, is determined by all of the choices that he makes on his journey to that fate. As Aang and Zuko encounter each other throughout their journeys, they influenced each other. Aang's free spirit and appreciation for the world gave Zuko a new perspective on life, while Zuko taught Aang firebending and gave insight to his own inner struggles. Aang and Zuko were both destined to one day become great leaders. They are intertwined because they both had to incite societal change to attain that status. The common theme among the abstract parallel between Aang and Zuko is that one can change the way they fulfill their destiny by their persistence, personal decisions, and own accord. Avatar: The Last Airbender relates Zuko and Aang throughout the story with parallelism. Literal, narrative, and conceptual parallelisms between Aang and Zuko cause the characters' development to converge in actions, relationships, and theme. This is a large part of what makes Avatar such a profound show. It juxtaposes two seemingly opposite people to shed light on the similarities between them, and displays how every action one makes will change the perspective of the other. This is why popular culture praises this series as much as it does. The effect of one's actions on the world is a topic explored extensively in the show. The use of parallelism grants new views on this and other topics or themes analyzed in Avatar: The Last Airbender. Aang and Zuko are but one example of the show's stellar use of parallels to draw connections within its world, as well as between the world of Avatar and our own.